Galio is the latest addition to League of Legends, Wild Rift's roster of tanks. While the Colossus is primarily designed to fight as his team's frontline, he can be built to fill other roles in other lanes as well. Players can take him to any lane as an AP bruiser, mid-lane mage, disruptive tank or CC-based support. When playing this tank in the mid lane, we rank it as a A-tier pick. Galio will mostly do magic damage and has lots of crowd control. Based on playstyle, we consider this champion moderately difficult to play. To begin this new wave of champions, a symbol from the resplendent city of Demacia will make his arrival at Summoner's Rift, imposing his majesty and sense of justice in the face of all his enemies. One of the best tanks around the game. Known for his big resilience and stunning attacks, it's time to introduce Galio, the Colossus. First we will take a look at Galio's active and passive abilities. With his passive, Colossal Smash, he upgrades his next attack to deal area damage. It's a early simple passive but quite powerful as it adapts to both physical and magical damage. With his first skill, Winds of War, he fires 2 gusts of wind that deal magic damage and leaves a tornado in the impact area. The tornado damages enemies based on their maximum health. It's incredibly powerful against other tanks that build a lot of HP items. With his second skill, Shield of Durand, he is passive and active. Passive, every 12 seconds. After taking damage, Galio gains a shield that absorbs magic damage equal to a percentage of his maximum health. Active, retaining the skill allows Galio to take a defensive stance, slowing himself down but taking reduced damage from enemy attacks. Releasing the skill will taunt nearby enemies for a few seconds. This is useful when starting a team fight. While you're in the middle, a defensive stance can reduce the damage you receive, and unleashing the skill will cause enemies around you. With his third skill, Justice Punch, he dash forward until Galio hits a champion or enemy land, dealing magic damage to enemies and knocking them down. Very useful for preventing enemies from escaping or playing W-ith champions who can benefit from knockups like Yasuo. With his ultimate, Hero's Entrance, Galio flies away and grants a shield to all allies in the target area. After a short delay, it crashes into the target area, dealing magical damage to nearby enemies and knocking them down. This is your main engagement skill. Save it in very crucial situations and never waste it just to kill someone. So, this were the skills, and now you can see his ability upgrade order. Runes and spells recommended for Galio. Galio is known within the Rift for his excellent sustain, which makes him an essential pick when taking on enemies and compositions based on magic damage, as well as working quite well as a counter pick either in the mid lane or as a support. We will have different rune options depending on what role you want to play with Galio. As mid lane you need to take Electrocute, which triggers on successful skill combos and trades, dealing bonus damage to affected enemies and increasing her burst damage. Next Brutal, which grants bonus attack damage and armor penetration. You need to take Hunter, Titan, which grants 20 max health, while Unique Champion Takedowns adds an additional 20 horsepower and 4% tenacity. And at last Mana Flow Band, which increases your maximum mana when dealing damage to enemy champions. As support, first you need to take Aftershock, which immobilizing an enemy champion grants additional armor and magic resistance, as well as unleashing a barrage of magic damage to nearby enemies. Then you take Weakness, that increases your team's damage to opponents slowed or with crowd control effects. Then Loyalty, you and your closest ally gain 2 armor and 5 bonus magic resistance. And at last Pack Hunter, which grants bonus movement speed when near an ally. Additionally, Unique Takedowns will grant you and the closest ally bonus gold. For Summoner Spell, Galio is a very flexible champion in terms of the options you can choose for his summoner spells. So in addition to the routine flash, you can select what suits you best depending on the situation. Take Ignite, to play aggressive or finish off opponents. Take Barrier, against enemies with a lot of siege power. And take Exhaust, in case you have to go support or against very elusive enemies. Best items for Galio. Going on the same tangent of his versatility, Galio's items will be based on boosting his magic damage, in addition to adapting his defenses to the damage focus of the enemy team. Although it also does not hurt to take it with a tanky build when it is really necessary. As mid lane you can take Rod of Ages, restores mana depending on how much health you lose and vice versa. It also has a passive that increases your HP, mana and AP every 30 seconds up to 10 times. Then Infinity Orb grants movement speed, magic penetration, and bonus damage against low health targets. Then Mercury's Treads reduces the duration of stuns, slows, taunts, fears, silences, blinds, and immobilizes by 35%. Recommended using them with Glorious Enchant for siege situations. Then Rabadon's Death Cap dramatically increases ability power by 40%. Then Void Staff grants a tremendous amount of magic penetration. You can complete this itemization with Liandry's in case you have to face a tanky enemy team, or a Moray Yonomicon, to increase your magic penetration and inflict grievous wounds. As support, you need to take Zeke's Convergence. By using your ultimate, you will activate an icy storm around you, which will slow enemies and burn them with magic damage for a few seconds. Then Force of Nature grants movement speed and magic resistance when you receive ability damage. This effect can be stacked up to 5 times. Then Warmog's Armor, at 2500 or more maximum health. You can regenerate 5% of this per second. If you have not taken damage in combat for 6 seconds. You can complete this comp with 2 variants, based on the primary enemy damage. For physical defense take Ninja's Tabi with Glorious or Gargoyle Enchant, Randuin's Omen, and Dead Man's Plate or Frozen Heart. For magical defense take Mercury's Treads with Glorious or Gargoyle Enchant, Adaptive Helm, and Spirit Visage. These are some other builds, tips for Galio's playstyle. Released in 2010 and undergoing a massive rework in 2017. Galio went from being one of the most overlooked champions in Summoner's Rift to one of the most influential in the metagame thanks to his defensive power and massive crowd control, making him a champion with too much utility in team fights. During the early game, much of your strategy will focus on annoying the enemy with your Winds of War, causing them to back off their farming attempts and allowing you to easily clear out waves of minions. When your enemy is unprepared or in a precarious situation, initiate your siege with his Justice Punch to hit him face to face to the air, and charge up his Shield of Durand so that they have no alternative escape route. These opportunities can be used by your allies to take down the paralyzed opponent or to give you time in the event of an enemy rotation. Always try to save your hero's entrance for the appropriate moments, as it can change the course of any team fight or save your allies from any danger, in case they are completely subdued by enemy champions. As the game progresses, the passives of your Colossal Smash and your Shield of Durand will have a more substantial effect both on lane pushing and in terms of combat and survivability, which is why we previously recommended boosting his magic damage and defenses, to get the most out of them. With the arrival of Galio, the overview of the mid and dragon lanes will change a lot, as some high-impact champions such as Jinx and Diana will encounter this Colossus, who will make life difficult for anyone who stands in front of him while demonstrating his instinct for survival and justice to everyone in battle. EARLY game. Galio can struggle in the early game as a melee champion. Most of the time you want to stay back and use your Winds of War, first ability, to last hit minions or poke down the enemy. Once you hit level 3 you will get Justice Punch, third ability, which will allow you to dash towards a target. This is when you can get a full combo off with Galio and start to win the duels versus the enemy mid lane. Be careful not to dash too far forward, as if you do there is no way of escaping. Mid-game. Galio has almost global ultimate like Twisted Fate. Galio can teleport on near ally champions and also grants them shield from Durand's passive. So, when playing as a Galio, stay in your lane. Try to push turrets as much as you can, and use your ultimate to join your team in team fights. Galio's mid-game is pretty strong, so try to engage in team fights as much as you can. Late game. When you reach the mid/late game and get a few items, this is where Galio can start to do a lot of damage and be a front-like tank. At the start of a team fight, you want to sit back and wait for your other frontline allies to go in so you can follow up with Hero's Entrance, ultimate. When you are grouped with your team and about to have a 5 versus 5 team fight, the best thing you want to do is get to their backline where you can kill the enemy's carries. In conclusion, Galio has a very unique playstyle and is very different from other mid-lane champions. You have to learn to play safely in the early game and farm up until you have enough confidence to go into team fights. If you like to do a lot of damage but like being able to survive a lot longer as well, then Galio is the champion for you. Thanks for watching.